Before you listen, if you enjoy the stories and want to hear more, then please consider subscribing. Most of you listening aren't subscribed, so please take this time to subscribe. Turn on notifications so you'll never miss a story and be the first to hear. You'll also be supporting me. Thank you. Life on the road as a trucker is a peculiar thing, you know. It's got a way of lulling you into a rhythm like a lonesome cowboy on his steed riding through the endless plains. I've been at it for hours, the road stretching out in front of me like a coiled black serpent under a velvet sky. I can't really put a number on the miles or the hours, all of them blending into the other in a sleepy haze. Now, it wasn't the first time I'd found myself driving under the cover of darkness. Heck, some of my best memories are from these star-studded nights, accompanied by a lullaby of the engine and a meditative hum of rubber against asphalt. But this night something was off, like a wrong note in a familiar tune. My rig, a sturdy beast she is, had been guzzling gas, and the dashboard lights were painting a picture I didn't much like. Time for a pit stop. Took an exit off the highway, drawn to the dim glow of a gas station, a ghostly mirage in the desolate landscape. Entering the station, it was like stepping into a forgotten time, the air heavy with a sense of eerie desolation. Picture this, a rundown gas station, the neon sign flickering erratically, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to sway in rhythm with the cold night breeze. The air smelled of old diesel and desolation. I remember thinking to myself, this place could use a bit of sprucing up, shaking my head at the state of the place. As I was going about my business, feeding the fuel-thirsty beast, I felt it. You know that sensation, like a spider crawling up your spine? Yep, that's the one. My head whipped around so fast I thought I'd get whiplash, and that's when I saw him. A shadow, really a dark silhouette against the even darker backdrop of the decrepit station. And there, glinting ominously under the flickering neon light, was a gun. Now I've heard enough tales from other truckers, faced enough of my own rough times, but nothing quite prepares you for a moment like this. It's like your life switches to slow motion, every detail etched into your memory like a grotesque masterpiece. Panicked, I bolted towards my rig, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The silence of the night was torn apart by the echoing crack of a gunshot. It was a sound that felt like a sledgehammer against my eardrums, a chilling reminder of the danger I was in. The bullet whizzed past, so close that I could feel the air displacement as it cut through the night. I'd barely made it into the cab when another shot rang out, this one hitting the rig with a metallic thud. Panic flooded through me like ice-cold water as I realized the shot had landed dangerously close to the fuel tank. Ignoring the piercing ringing in my ears, I slammed the truck into gear, my tires spitting gravel as I put the pedal to the metal. The next few moments were hard to remember, a blend of raw fear and pure adrenaline. The road ahead was just a whirl of darkness and passing streetlights. The steady hum of the engine was my only solace, drowning out the thunderous pounding of my heart. My hands gripped the wheel with white-knuckle intensity, my eyes glued to the mirror until the gas station was nothing more than a pinprick of light in the distance. I eventually found refuge at a truck stop some miles down the highway. The sight of other trucks, the murmur of fellow drivers, it felt like I crossed some invisible finish line. Yet the relief was short-lived. As I surveyed the damage on my rig, the evidence of the bullet striking so close to the fuel tank was a stark reminder of how close I'd come to becoming a headline in the morning news. That night gave me a reality check, let me tell you that. It's a tale I've told countless times, a story that never fails to earn a few wide-eyed looks. But it's also a lesson I'll carry with me always. Life on the open road isn't just about the freedom and the adventure, it's also about the lurking dangers and the unexpected scares. And, as much as I hate to admit it, that adrenaline-fueled dash for survival is a part of the job, a part of the life I chose. Picture this, you're deep into a long-haul drive, cutting through the never-ending tarmac, mile after mile. Just you, your rig, and the lonesome whisper of the highway under a sky dressed in inky darkness. That was me, a solitary voyager threading the night's fabric. The neon glows of passing towns flickered in the distance, mere ghosts on the horizon. But the real ghost story, that was just beginning. This wasn't some bustling highway with a constant hum of passing vehicles, neon billboards, and flashing lights. No, this was an old route where Mother Nature had laid her claim and mankind was just a visitor passing through. As far as the eye could see, the landscape was bathed in moonlight, painting a monochrome picture of vast emptiness, interrupted only by the occasional rustle of nocturnal creatures. My eyes, weary from hours of monotonous driving, were scanning the vast expanse for anything that could keep my mind active. That's when I caught my first glimpse of her. The soft glow of my headlights hit her figure, casting an ethereal glow around her. A little girl, not more than 10, standing at the edge of the woods bordering the highway. In the split second before she disappeared from view, I remember her staring right at me, her eyes reflecting the headlights like two silver orbs. The image of the girl was burnt into my mind, but being the seasoned trucker that I am, I shook off the eerie sight, telling myself it was just my tired brain playing tricks on me. After all, it was late and I'd been driving for hours on end. Who wouldn't start seeing things, right? But as the miles rolled on, I saw her again and again. The same little girl at different intervals at different spots, but always standing still, always watching me. Each time I saw her, I could make out more details. Her dress fluttering in the cold night breeze, her long hair whipping around her face, her tiny bare feet on the hard, cold asphalt. The sight of her was as puzzling as it was unnerving. A shudder crept down my back every time her apparition came into view, the shock of seeing her standing alone in the desolate night tugging at my heartstrings. No matter how many times I told myself it wasn't real, that she was just a figment of my sleep-deprived imagination, the realism of each encounter said otherwise. Each sighting seemed more real than the last, her image growing clearer and more detailed, her presence more unsettling. She was a phantom woven into the fabric of my journey, a ghostly reminder of the road's hidden mysteries, the untold stories buried under its worn-out surface. Yet I forced myself to ignore it, to keep going. It was just a hallucination, I assured myself, just a product of an exhausted mind. After what felt like an eternity of driving, a rest stop loomed in the distance. The sight of it was a sanctuary, a port in the storm of my mounting fear. I maneuvered my rig into a parking slot, the engine's hum gradually dying into silence. The cab was my refuge, the comfortable familiarity offering a respite from the eerie visions. I knew I needed sleep to reboot, to reassure myself it was just a tea playing cruel tricks. As I drifted into the realm of sleep, I found myself in a dream. A landscape painted in shades of twilight and moonlight unfolded before me, the starry sky stretching out like a velvet canvas overhead. She was again the little girl, this time clear as day. She stood in the middle of the road, her spectral figure bathed in the ghostly luminescence. I watched her, captivated and terrified at the same time. She was just a child, her face a mask of innocence, her eyes wells of ancient sadness. She stood there, a phantom born of moonlight and sadness, a ghostly silhouette against the landscape of my dreams. Suddenly she raised her arm, pointing down the deserted road. Her gaze seemed to implore, to plead for something I couldn't understand. It was a chilling tableau, a chilling prophecy of something yet to come. Her eyes bore into mine, a silent plea echoing in the deafening silence of the dream. But before I could make sense of it all, the dream dissolved into a whirl of darkness. I woke up with a start, the echo of my dream pulsating in my head. Outside, the dawn was breaking, splashing the sky with hues of gold and orange. I looked around, half expecting to see the girl's apparition again, but all was as it should be, a normal rest stop bathed in the warm glow of the morning sun. I revved up the engine and rejoined the highway, the ghostly sightings and the eerie dream tucked away in a corner of my mind. Yet I couldn't avoid the lingering dread, a chill that clung to me despite the morning sun's warmth. As I drove on towards the road, I never saw her again. I'm glad she's no longer haunting me. Been trucking for years now. Spent most of my life on wheels, watching the world whiz by through the windshield of my big rig. Every day is different on the open road. One day you're weaving through towering mountains. The next you're cruising down flat plains that stretch into eternity. Life's never boring when your office view changes with every mile. Now, this story I'm about to tell you is a bit of an odd one. Makes you question the fabric of reality. This happened a couple of years ago during one of my cross-country hauls. The tale dates back to the time when I was running regular routes through the Mojave Desert. Now, if you've ever seen the Mojave at night, you'll know it's a whole different beast. Once the sun dips below the horizon, it's just you, your rig, and miles of pitch-black nothingness. This particular night was a new moon. The desert lay draped in an inky cloak, devoid of any natural light. The only luminescence came from the headlamps of my truck, slicing through the darkness. The atmosphere was eerie, the quietness of the desert a stark contrast to the regular hum of civilization. That's when I saw it, a formation of lights, silent and hovering, slicing through the obsidian sky. They were in perfect symmetry, moving as one unit, their glow a sharp contrast against the backdrop of the night. The sight was mesmerizing, terrifying, and awe-inspiring all at once. The desert sky was so dark that it felt like a massive, infinite void. But these lights, they pierced through that void, almost mocking its darkness. They were brilliant, brighter than any star or aircraft light I'd ever seen. Their glow was steady, not like the twinkling of stars or the flashing of airplane lights, but constant and unwavering. The intensity was such that, for a moment, it felt like daytime had intruded upon the night. Their formation was what truly caught my attention. They moved in perfect sync, maintaining a rigid formation that ruled out any natural phenomenon. The pattern was geometric, an almost perfect triangle that maintained its shape as the lights moved across the sky. Each light was distinct, yet part of the larger formation, like they were bound together by some invisible force. They moved in unison, gliding across the night sky, leaving no trail, no sound, nothing but a visual memory that would be etched in my mind forever. The eerie silence that accompanied their movement was unsettling. It was like the desert itself held its breath at their passage. The colors they emitted were peculiar, to say the least. They weren't just white, but a palette of colors that seemed to shift and swirl within each light. Hues of blue, green, and a tinge of red could be discerned if one looked closely. The colors were bright and otherworldly, almost hypnotic in their vibrancy. They illuminated the barren desert landscape in an ethereal glow, painting a spectacle that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The moment felt like it was suspended in time. The normal sounds of the night seemed to have been swallowed up, replaced by a silence that was almost palpable. I sat there, rooted to my seat in the cab of my truck, my eyes glued to this display of lights that defied all logic and reason. And then, without warning, they disappeared. No grand exit, no final burst of light. One moment they were there, lighting up the night sky, and the next moment they were gone, as if they had never been there. It was as abrupt as their arrival, leaving me in a state of shock and awe. Then, out of the blue, my rig's electrical system went haywire. The dashboard lights started flickering, the radio spat out a high-pitched screech, and then everything went dead. The entire rig rolled to a stop right there in the middle of the desert. Underneath the canvas of stars, I was a sitting duck in an ocean of darkness. The desert plunged back into its familiar darkness, the only evidence of the spectacle I'd witnessed being the adrenaline coursing through my veins and the echo of fear thumping in my chest. With a shudder, my rig roared back to life, the dashboard bathed in its comforting glow. I revved the engine and eased her back onto the road, the encounter with the unexplainable still reverberating in my mind. Driving through the desert at night never felt the same after that. The open road had always been my escape, my solitude, but that night added a layer of wonder, of mystery, and a dash of fear to it. Every time the cab's lights bounce off the dusty desert trails, I'm taken back to that night, a reminder of how there are things in this world that are beyond our understanding. So, yeah, being a trucker might be lonesome, but it sure ain't ever boring. Thanks for listening in. If you like these stories and want to hear more, then please subscribe and like and support this new channel. We have more stories for you to listen to.